Hey everybody, welcome to week number 3 of our course. Coming to you again from my home office. Today I'm dressed a little bit differently. T-shirt, sweatshirt, University of Maryland hat to keep the school spirit going. And as I was getting ready to record this video, I sat and I thought for a minute and said, well, probably when you guys are in a Saturday morning sitting around doing your work, you're probably not wearing a coat and tie either, so maybe I'd see if I could keep that example going as well. This is a really interesting week. We're talking about pitches, we're talking about preparing things for the media, getting it disseminated, as well as some of the fundamentals of participating and engaging in communities and social media. So I want to talk really about engaging audiences in the on and the offline environment, and we're going to start with Treadwell and Treadwell first. And in that book, they discuss, among other things, is developing and disseminating information for members of the media, trying to drive at what will give them the chance of getting earned media, which is simply providing information to members of the media and trying to get it placed. So let's talk a little bit about what a pitch is, because a pitch is really an ask, where you take what you have, you give it to a reporter or an editor, or even a blogger for that matter, and you ask them to write about it in an objective way. But let's focus more on traditional media. So the information that you're going to present to people for this pitch is going to be something like a press release, a media kit, or a phone call or an email for that particular pitch. Most people, when they prepare information for the media, are going to do so based upon the traditional press release. And they talk about this in Treadwell and Treadwell. And I really want to touch on this since this is the primary vehicle that people will use. What makes a good press release? As we talked about in prior weeks, really, and this is especially critical when you're preparing the press releases, that you need to understand who your audience is and you need to write for that audience. And that might be different for the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times, or if you're trying to get your information placed in a real niche publication, let's say for the plastics industry. So you really want to understand your audience. The first one is the reporter or the editor. And second, the people that you want to read the information if you can get your things placed. And the way to go about this is to think about, as the text mentions, as many of you probably know, the 5 W's and H. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. You have to provide this information to people to ensure that you're going to get past the editor or the reporter, and this is going to form the foundation of your press release. So let's say that you have all this information in mind as you're developing the press release itself. What does it look like? Well, at the top of the press release, you're going to have contact information. Let's say you're the person who's actually generating the information. At the top there, your contact information is going to be your name, sometimes your organization, and a contact number. Provide a contact number if it's a direct dial where it rings at your desk. You know, if a reporter's on deadline or if they're in a hurry, sometimes they don't want to go through a receptionist. And what I like for an additional phone number is your cell, because reporters don't always work 9 to 5, and if they call you and have an interest in what it is you have to say, you want to make sure that you're available at all times, even after hours. After the contact information, you're going to have a headline. And in that headline, you really want to be able to tell your story in a very engaging, succinct way. First ever, new release, new product. The title that you produce has to be succinct and engaging and have lots of words in it that if you were reading it, you'd say, wow, well, this is really the first ever website of its kind, or this has been ranked as the premier online or distance learning university in the world. Things like that are going to make for a really good headline in your release. Now, in the first paragraph of the story, it is kind of a written version of an elevator pitch. You want to work in to 2 or 3 sentences the who, what, when, where, why, and how of your release, and you want to make it compelling and engaging. And what I like to tell people is the first paragraph of your release, what you want is if that stands alone, if people only read the title and the first paragraph of the release, which sometimes happens, can they come away with the meaning from the press release that you want them to? Treadwell and Treadwell has a couple of examples, Phoenix Coyotes and another corporation, of good press releases. But if you just read the contact title, first paragraph, can you come away with the information you need? If you can, you've written a good paragraph. In the release, the second paragraph is usually reserved for a quote. You want a compelling quote that supports the first paragraph, usually from a senior official, one that's easy enough that can be inserted right into the story. So a CEO, Vice President of Communications, somebody on a very senior level should say something that is supporting the first paragraph. And here's a little trick for you. Most people don't come up with their own quotes. You're probably going to draft the quote, you're going to put it in the release, and then you might run it by the person to say, is this okay? And they might edit it. But most people don't come up with their own quotes. In the third paragraph, you're going to provide a little bit more of a detailed level of the who, what, when, where, why, and how. A little bit of an expansion if people are reading in the paragraph and they want more information and more details. Fourth paragraph is going to be the same thing. Fifth paragraph sometimes is a good place for another quote that supports all of the information that you've seen, maybe from a slightly lesser official or someone of less stature. Finally, in the last paragraph of your release, no matter how long it is, you're going to be providing information that's boilerplate. Company XYZ is the #1 manufacturer of widgets in the United States and Canada. The company has been in operation successfully since 1986. Something like that that's just boilerplate about your organization. Okay, so let's say you have your release developed and now you want to turn around and you want to pitch it. When you pitch a reporter, I'd encourage you to think of the fact, kind of put yourself in their shoes. They're busy, they're on deadline. News staffs have been cut pretty significantly, so you got to figure that they're going to be doing more things than they used to, maybe doing more with less, or maybe actually in addition to writing, they're going to be blogging and producing things for video. You see a lot of reporters doing that too, and shifting what they used to do in terms of print and translating that in the online environment. So they're busy. So what I'd encourage you to do is the first thing to think about before you send a press release and you're developing your media list is to contact a targeted reporter and ask them how, that's my dog by the way who just left the room, that's Prince the dog. You're going to contact the member of the media before you send them anything and ask them how they like to be contacted. Is it via email? Do they like phone calls? Do they like fax press releases? You're going to find out from them how they like to be contacted. And you might say, hi, Mr. Reporter, I'm Mark Story. I'm with the National Association of Realtors, and I was calling to find out, I have information that might be relevant to you and to your readers, and I was calling to find out how you like to be contacted, or I was writing to see how you might like to be contacted. These things are important, and a reporter might actually say, wow, this person gets it. They get me. They get the organization. Something to think about. I call the reporter to go ahead and pitch your story. You really need to get to the point quickly. And the first thing you want to do is you want to ask them if they can talk right now. If they say yes, you have to do so quickly. And when you get them on the phone, it's okay to say, listen, I'm calling to pitch you a story about XYZ. Get to it quickly. Get to the information quickly. Think about pitch you on a story or an idea that I think is of interest to your readers. And if it is of interest to the readers, you might actually get the reporter's attention. Understand that reporters operate on deadline, and the deadlines tend to be later on in the day. So if you're calling maybe around 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you might not get the reporter, or they might pick up the phone and absolutely be on deadline, and that's another reason why you want to ask them if it's okay to talk to them about that. And finally, when you're pitching reporters, don't call more than once if you talk to them. So call, pitch your story. If they're going to write about it, they're going to write about it. But don't call again to say, have you considered writing about my story? And some people think, and I'm one of them, that if you leave one phone message for a reporter, you email them, you pitch the story, and you leave a message, leave it. Again, if they're going to write about it, they're going to write about it. So that's kind of a primer on developing materials, especially press releases, and then pitching them to members of the media.